Well, hello and welcome to another Tyrrell's Classic Workshop. It's Ketchup time again, or Workshop Catch-up to be more specific. And we have got a few sort of off-the-wall cars here. Some, I would dare say, cars that we wouldn't normally get in. So I'm going to just do a little précis of each one, and I'd actually be interested to know which one you would like us to video first. So we start with this, the Aston Martin Vanquish, otherwise known in the Bond films as Aston Martin Vanish. More of that when we get round to doing a video on it, but beautiful V12 Aston Martin, styled by the wonderful Iain Callum. And this happens to be in for a service and some brake work. And it's actually one thing that has come to light. It needed new brakes all around this car, is that the discs are almost impossible to get hold of for it, the rear brake discs, but more of that when the time comes. We also have a Mini, a beautiful little early Mark I Mini, which is in for a check over, a report and some rectification work. And it's quite an interesting little car in its own right. Alex here is very into his Minis, one of our guys, and he's restored his own Mark I Mini, which is, I would venture to say, in concours condition. So we've let him loose on this car, and we can do a video on that. I'd love to do a video on the Mini because my first car was actually a Mini, a 1963 Mini as well, with the starter button between the seats and the sliding windows and all that good stuff. Another car we've got here is the Lotus ISPR S3. This car is from the mid-1980s, and it's an interesting car. It's been on an island for a lot of its life, and the salt air has caused bits that wouldn't normally rust to have surface rust on them. But that's okay, we can treat and get rid of that. But it also has hardly been used. It hasn't been used for a long time, and it's only done 7,000 miles from new. So probably a virtually unique Lotus Esprit. I'd like to do a video on that too because it's very interesting. It was an interesting period in Lotus's history. And then we have a DeLorean DMC-12, the first one ever in 40 years I've actually been near, never mind worked on. So we've got those, but I'm going to just focus first of all on the Jaguar E-Type that we've been doing. James and Alex did all the metal fabrication on the tub, the body. It's a convertible car and an open top sports in Jaguar E-Type speak. And that's away being painted by Ryan at Cheshire Prestige Paintworks, who is our paintwork partner, and he does wonderful work. In fact, he did I need to give him a shout out because I didn't do it in the last video. He did the exquisite job on the lime green Miura SV that's just gone back to our customer. He did a sublime job on that, and the E-Type is going to be no different. So, but we're going to be looking at some of the mechanical parts that we've been restoring. One part in particular, the rear suspension that we've been restoring here, ready for when the car comes back. So let's go and have a look at that first. We've also started YouTube memberships as well. The videos will carry on as normal. Nothing will change, but for those people who do want to join, there is a membership available. So just thought I'd mention that before we move on. Well, this is part of the genius of what elevated Jaguar to world leaders in ride and handling compromise in the 1960s and beyond, actually. This is called an IRS, nothing to do with American taxation authorities. This is an independent rear suspension, and this is a module, it's a whole assembly which is built up, and it actually sits underneath the car, underneath a well that is up at the back of the car, and the rear wheels go either side here. It's a brilliant piece of engineering, this. It truly is genius. It gets rid of a lot of cars in 1961 when this was first introduced on the Jaguar E-Type. A lot of cars still had live rear axles, as they're called, which is a great big huge even, yes, rear axle assembly, which is very heavy. and it bounces around, and there's a lot of unsprung weight, as it's called, which is in effect fighting against the body for attention. And as it goes over the bumps in the road, it transmits those bumps into the shell of the car, and hence you get a bumpy ride. So a big rear axle is not desirable. So Jaguar actually thought very much outside the box, and they came up with this system. And this has got an alloy hub here, lower suspension arm, and the drive shaft forms the upper suspension arm. So it's an unequal length wishbone system, which is absolutely ideal for car handling. And because of the low unsprung weight, you don't have that great big axle swimming around. It actually means you don't have to damp the assembly too much, and you actually consequently get a smooth ride as well as optimal handling. It really is genius, this. But from a serviceability point of view, it's a bit of a nightmare, because when it's in the car, these are the handbrake mechanisms here, and this is the control for them. It's actually quite difficult to get at everything. But these, we've actually restored. These are the original brake calipers. We've restored those. You can buy modern Chinese-made equivalents, but we didn't do that. We've restored the original Girling brake calipers. And the whole assembly is restored and ready to go back on. But it really is a work of genius, this, and it gives. This is one of the main reasons why Jaguar had such an enviable ride handling compromise, because you had next to no unsprung weight. Even the brake calipers and the differential are actually fixed to this, which via these rubber blocks is fixed to the car. Very clever system, very elegant, and it worked ever so well. Not the mechanic's friend, but from a design point of view and a driving point of view, very good. Well, another project that's been quietly trundling on in the background is this one, the Bentley S2. We've done a lot of welding on this. The body as such doesn't do anything apart from sort of sit on the chassis. It's not of any massive structural importance, because these have such a separate and strong chassis frame underneath them. But nevertheless, they can rust, and it can affect the way the doors hang and just the safety of the car, even in a side-on impact. So what we've done is Alex has carefully fabricated new inner and outer sills from scratch. Here's the old one. It's pretty rusty, really. That's the better side. The other side was not as good as that, but it all feels beautifully metallic, the right ring of metal as opposed to the thud of newspapers or filler. Wouldn't be the first time. We've offered the front wings up to this, and everything is still fitting okay, even though this line here is critical. A lot of silver clouds, you actually don't see that because they put filler over it where the front wing joins the sill. So we're observing all these things. This is a lovely job, actually. It's going to be phenomenally satisfying when it's finished. Craig's redone the headlining, made carpets for it. They're all ready to slot in. The woodwork is all redone, which we covered in a previous video. This is going to look very nice. This is being done for the owner for sentimental value. It would not normally justify spending this amount of money on a car like this, but if it has been in the family, and if it's an important car for them and a lovely experience to have it brought back to beautiful condition, so be it. We're being as sensible as we can with and economical with the hours on it, obviously, because we don't want to go crazy. Yeah, it's coming along nicely. It's going to be a really lovely car, this, when it's finished. Well, one of the sort of forgotten about areas of classic cars is the suspension and the underpinnings, but actually they can quietly wear and make the handling soggy as bushes degrade, rubber bushes and things like that. So, and also they don't look very attractive. So this is quite a sort of normal job, really. We're doing a full suspension refresh on this Ferrari Testarossa. The brake calipers have already been done. We've had those done, but the owner has decided to go a bit further now. It does improve the functionality of the car, the handling, if everything is fresh and lovely. You get no knocks from underneath, and but you know, as I say, it firms up the handling. We don't need to go to the extent of putting poly bushes on, the plastic bushes instead of the rubber ones, because this car was never criticised for its handling in the 1984, 85 when it came out. So we keep it standard, we just replenish everything. We have to cut or grind all these bushes out carefully with the press, because they do take a set. They sort of have a coating of rust and don't particularly want to escape. But this is our stock in trade. We do a lot of this sort of thing. You know, when you look from, if the car happens to be parked and you can see under the back a bit on the likes of a Ferrari Boxer or this, you can actually see all the lovely suspension redone, and it actually adds value to the car if it's been done. So yeah, it helps them to drive the way they should, and it helps them to look attractive and add value to the car whenever it's sold, if it is sold. We do a lot of Lamborghinis here, and this has just arrived. This is a gentleman who knows his cars. He's had this a number of years. He's a very discerning collector, not a newcomer to the market. And we are, as happens with a lot of leather-covered dashboards, the leather can shrink with UV light and heat. And actually you start to see the edges of the leather coming off the dashboard as it shrinks and pulls. And because of that, Craig is doing a retrimming job on the dashboard with new leather. The car otherwise is in beautiful condition, but it was just the dashboard that let it down, so we're doing that for the owner. Craig's doing a wonderful job. I mean, it's interesting because a lot of cars of this era, once you actually take the trim off them, the underneath is it's a fiberglass molding or a piece of shaped aluminium or something like that. They're surprisingly crude, but surprisingly effective. And this is actually a fiberglass molding. It's because they were made in such low production numbers. It was easier just to take a fiberglass imprint from a mold, and by the time you'd covered it in leather and a thin bit of foam, it looked beautiful. Well, that concludes another Tyrrell's Classic Workshop. Hope you've enjoyed it, and we'll be back with something else very soon.